Infirmary Media.
Warning, the following program features content that may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised. You're listening to the Beaucephus Broadcast.
Greetings, boys and girls, and welcome to episode 67 of the Beaucephus Broadcast. Glad to be back in the basement with you for another week of shenanigans on the World Wide Web. I am fresh out of a Sudafed and Tylenol PM coma, and boy, do I feel like about $50. Not 150. Halfway to feeling 100%. Anyway, played a gig in Springfield, Illinois last night, the old state capitol. I didn't play at the state capitol building. I don't think I'm there yet. Don't think I ever will be. Played a little bar called Crow's Mill Pub just outside the city limits. Temperatures near 100. The heat index was obviously higher. I'd say it was hotter than hell, but I'm pretty sure I was there. I was actually there. So the gig was outside too. So I think I ended up with a little bit of heat exhaustion, if we're being honest. I got the worst headache the entire way home. Of course, I started the day off with a few bush lights to kind of maybe take the edge off having to be outside all night. But I drank plenty of water, I'll have you know. I stayed hydrated. But man, yeah, that headache the entire way home. And most of the third set, sinuses, of course, griping at me too, because those are absolute garbage. I don't remember the drive taking so damn long to Springfield to and from, but it's pretty near 2 hours. The way there felt a little bit shorter because I definitely drove faster. I don't like driving at night anymore, though. I get really, I don't know, my eyesight's not as good as it used to be. So I did admittedly drive much slower on the way home. And there's a lot of construction too, but man, that just felt like it dragged on forever. But it was every bit of a 13-hour day altogether. I left Quincy at 1 o'clock yesterday afternoon, got back on the driveway at 2 a.m. this morning. So that Sudafed and Tylenol PM went down very nicely. Slept like a rock. It was great. There's been a lot of music stuff happening this week, or will be a lot of music stuff happening as well. We ate dinner at Warsaw Brewery in Warsaw, Illinois on Friday. Great place if you haven't been. I think it's still relatively new. I mean, the establishment itself is very old and historic, but I think the new guts, I guess if you want to call it, are still fairly recent. But they feed the hell out of you there. Man, if you leave hungry, you did it wrong. You did it way wrong. So I got a belly full of burger and curly fries and macaroni salad. And then my pals from Staggered, Scotty V and the boys, playing a gig there that night too. And I want to say thanks to Scotty and the guys, of course, for letting me run some sound for him a little bit. That was equally nerve-wracking as it was fun. But I got to play sound guy for a little bit on Friday. So I add that to my lengthy list of credentials, I suppose. But this is what I'm looking forward to musically this week, aside from our great guest on this episode. More about that in just a minute. Wednesday, July 4th, because yes, it's somehow July already. I don't know how we arrived at that point, but here we are. 7 months into 2018. Where has it gone? 4th of July, Independence Day, LaGrange, Missouri. We are opening up for Confederate Railroad. I might have mentioned this previously, but I'm very excited about this. Now, I know it's not an opening slot for the Walmart yodeling kid, but I'm pretty jazzed about it either way. I really wanted to get some sort of like star-spangled three-piece suit and like a top hat to wear for this gig, but I believe I have run out of time. I could get it online, and I looked at that like 2 or 3 weeks ago, but I'm really nervous about buying things online because I'm built exactly like and look exactly like Zangief from Street Fighter. So that makes ordering clothes that you can't physically try on first kind of a hassle. And I just don't like returning stuff. That's even more of a hassle. You got to go deal with people, and that's not fun. Regardless, there will be a lot of fun to be had on the 4th of July with the residents of LaGrange, Missouri.
Tomorrow's housing today. Ramsey Jones Homes.
LaGrange, Missouri.
People are going to come unglued. They're going to lose their collective minds when they hear Trashy Women. I guarantee it. And I'll try to get some video of it for you all, and I'll post it up on our social media pages. But yeah, it's going to be a barn burner, as old Jim Ross would call it, I'm sure. I do want to say, speaking of people, I've been riding an incredibly exceptional high over the last week, and I want to extend a sincere thank you to everybody for that. I made the announcement that Mr. Hayes Carll would be our guest this week, and I followed that up by announcing that Chris Pontius from Jackass will be coming on the following week. So it's a couple of banner weeks here, and I think we got some more good stuff on the way, but that pair really piqued the interest in some people who otherwise didn't know about this show. Like, I've been doing this for over a year. This is 67 episodes in as you're listening to this. And obviously I didn't expect everybody to know about this overnight, but there are like people within my immediate circle that are like, you do a podcast? And you're bringing in that caliber of guests. So I've gotten a lot of really nice messages from folks, and there's, some people ordering shirts on Amazon. There's some nice increase in numbers on the listener and download counts. So that's super appreciative. That's awesome. So maybe this thing is finally starting to garner some good traction or juju or whatever you want to call it. But I'm really excited about it. I'm very grateful. I'm humbled. And I hope that you enjoy each conversation or my often irrelevant babblings every week. Above all, I hope this continues to be a really great source of listening for you all. And I hope that maybe you'll find one of your new favorite things as a result of listening. Because that, I think, at the end of the day is the goal, for me to turn you on to some of the stuff that I like. Because obviously I have incredible taste in everything across the board. People did ask how they can sponsor the show, and to be honest, I'm not quite there yet. Yes, I have had some sponsors previously, but I feel kind of weird about that because I don't know how to really gauge that ROI that you're getting out of that. So, there's some costs. I do this largely for free. There's more. I probably lose more money than I make on this, but quite frankly, it's a passion project, and I expected that from the get-go. This is my baby, and it's just starting to learn to eat whole food. Let's put it that way. Obviously, if you want to contribute financially to the show, I'm totally open to that. Just shoot me a message. We'll talk about it. We'll figure something out. I'll give you some more details on how the whole thing works. But I have been asked how else they can support the show in lieu of funds. And honestly, the easiest thing you could do is listen. Listen to the show as frequently as you can. Like, outside of that, it's everything I say at the end of every episode. Follow on social media. Interact with those posts. That's huge. Interact with the show, man. Send your emails. Call the hotline. Tell me about your day. Buy a shirt. Tell your friends. Leaving a review on the platforms you listen on. That's huge. So any of those are a fine option to support the show. But at the end of the day, a simple listen. It truly goes a long way. That's a really good start, friends. Speaking of a simple listen took me a long way down a rabbit hole a few years back when I heard a fellow by the name of Hayes Carll on the Bob and Tom show. And I used to listen to Bob and Tom religiously. So I heard Hayes Carll on the Bob and Tom show one morning. So there was a point in time that my musical taste really began to make a significant shift. And that was around the age of 24, 25. And I would say it's one for the better, for sure. I started to listen to a lot better music, a lot more songwriting-based kind of music. And I discovered, a lot of my favorite artists, like Hayes Carll, Jason Isbell, Robert Ellis, so many others. Now, I'd initially heard the song She Left Me for Jesus on Bob and Tom. And that is the song that really hooked me from the get-go. And the one thing that song made me realize is that I'd never really heard before is that you could be funny in your music, but you could kind of do it in a veiled sort of way, or you could take a different perspective and write it from that way. And this is a prime example of that for me. So, I don't know how to best describe that characteristic, but Hayes makes it all sound so effortless. And that may have been one of the first times that I ever really sat and thought about the process of songwriting. And kind of deconstructed it, broke it down as to, whose perspective is this being sung from, and what's it about, and what does this mean? What does that mean? And by no means am I saying that Hayes Carll writes, mathematical equations. It's just interesting, the perspectives and the turns of phrasing that he uses. And so that song, She Left Me for Jesus, it's from the perspective of a guy that's, he's having this really clueless revelation that his woman is leaving him for another man, but in reality, that other man is Jesus. It's not another guy, she's leaving her man because she's found religion, and he doesn't understand that. And he says, well, if I find Jesus, well, look out, because he's got it coming to him. He stole my woman. So it's clever. Maybe it's very clever writing. And that is something I have an incredible appreciation for. Another person that does this really well is Casey Musgraves, I think. And that's why I, aside from her being just drop dead gorgeous, I really admire her stuff as well. So I could discuss that song over and over ad nauseum, but in summation, it's a really brilliantly written song that really made me appreciate that kind of songwriting perspective. And just songwriting in general, somebody who takes time to hone the craft and really make you think about the words that they're putting out there. But like I said, I went down a rabbit hole for a good while after that, and I've been sticking to Hayes' stuff ever since. The guy can write, the most poignant stuff, and then he can churn out the next one, which is a complete ass kicker. And I love it. It's great. I used his song "Stomp and Holler" as bumper music back when I was doing the morning show, and if that one didn't wake you up and get you ready to take on the day, I don't know what would have. It was probably Florida Georgia Line, and if that did that for you, that's okay for you, but whatever. Man, I could sit here and talk for hours with you and make you listen to all my favorite Hayes Carll songs and chat with you about them, break them down. But this week, I don't have to. And you have no idea how awesome it is to say that. It's been a dream come true, man. I never thought this day would come, and here we are. Stick around. Up next, to chat with one of my musical heroes, Mr. Hayes Carll, on the Beaucephus Broadcast.
The Beaucephus Broadcast.
Oh, little Johnny Walker caught a bullet last night, running from the guitar store. He took a left down the alley, gets the city on right. Now he ain't taking nothing no more.
If you love music and you love comedy, you love Weird Al Yankovic.
Hello, this is Weird Al Yankovic.
That's just science. And if you've ever seen Weird Al play live, you know he puts on an incredible show. Al just wrapped up his ridiculously self-indulgent, ill-advised vanity tour, where for the first time, he played his original songs. Classics like Dare to Be Stupid,
Dare to be stupid.
Jackson Park Express,
It all happened on the Jackson Park Express.
Buy Me a Condo,
Gonna buy me a condo.
and plenty more. There were 77 performances on this tour, and every show is unique, with a different set list, professionally mixed and mastered, and includes Al's impromptu stage banter. Listen to Weird Al Yankovic's ridiculously self-indulgent, ill-advised vanity tour, now on Stitcher Premium. For a free month of Stitcher Premium, go to StitcherPremium.com/WeirdAl. That's StitcherPremium.com/WeirdAl, and use promo code CULTURE.
We now return to the Beaucephus Broadcast.
Arkansas, my head hurts. I'd love to stick around and maybe make it worse.
My guest today is a critically acclaimed singer-songwriter who has amassed a bevy of accolades throughout his prolific career, including a Grammy nomination, multiple Austin Music Awards, and his music featured, of course, in the film Country Strong. This guy has kept me entertained with incredible music for years now. An honor and an achievement and a privilege to welcome to the program today, Mr. Hayes Carll. Thank you so much for your time today.
Glad to be here, Beau. Thank you.
I don't know where to begin with you, so I've got a million questions I could ask you, but I'll ask you something that I constantly kind of wonder about when I listen to you, and that's your writing style. You have got a way with phrasing or turning a phrase that I've always really admired, and it started with She Left Me for Jesus, which is the first song I heard of yours. It's a funny song, but it's incredibly clever in its viewpoint of kind of this aloofness. So what's your approach to writing? Like that tongue-in-cheek kind of sarcasm at times. How do you, what made you arrive to that style of writing?
Oh, I was drawn to it early on. I don't know, that particular song, the idea was brought to me by a friend named Brian Keane, who's a great songwriter, and so I can't take credit for that idea of he had the line, "If I ever find Jesus, I'm gonna kick his ass." And so, I thought when I first heard that, I thought, well, that's just too direct, and there wasn't much subtlety to it. But then we had fun finding, how does that apply in some way that is not just a direct physical threat to our Lord and Savior. And so that's where the satire comes in. It's the using the people's beliefs, but and how they differ from their behavior. That's always interesting to me, and something that I find hypocrisy to be unsettling, and so you find that sometimes, particularly in folks who are religious. You can find that, and that their words don't match up with their actions, and so in this case, we just said, well, what if it was the type of person who we had this giant misunderstanding about he thought his wife was cheating on him, but she'd actually found religion. But as the type of person who would call himself a Christian but would beat up Jesus if he saw him in a bar. And there was that sort of discrepancy that we were sort of trying to focus on. But where it comes from, it's just, I just enjoyed clever songwriters when I was young, and whether that was Jimmy Buffett or Jerry Jeff Walker or it's a long list, but I appreciate a sense of humor and some irony and some satire, and not being the whole thing, but part of it is always enjoyable.
Do you find it's hard to switch gears between the, that satire, that kind of sarcasm, between, that and writing from the heart, just kind of pouring out your emotions, so to speak?
I don't find it particularly hard to switch gears in the crafting of it. It can be hard to switch gears in a live setting or even in a recorded setting. That can be trickier.
It's reminiscent for me, like John Prine. Is that far off? Would you consider Prine's work an influence?
Prine's a massive influence, and one of the people that I always looked to and admired for his ability to do just that. He could make you laugh. He could make you see the silliness in something or the ridiculousness or absurdity of something, and then he could also paint the most poignant picture and have the most moving, sentimental thought. And then often he could do both at the same time, which I always found really remarkable, was to be able to be loose and make up his own language and be specific about the things and the people he was seeing, but have it translate into this sort of universal voice and something that everybody could connect to. So yeah, he was a big influence for sure.
Do you have a song that you've written that maybe walks that line, that kind of gears towards both directions? Yeah, I mean, I always said one of my goals was to write a song that could make you laugh and cry at the same time, and because Prine again has that ability, and it's something for me as a listener that I love. If my own songs, I've got one called "Grateful for Christmas." Mm-hmm. That maybe I've had people say it's had that effect on them. So that would probably be the closest that I can think of off the top of my head to kind of running that range of emotions. You've undoubtedly won a lot of hearts in Austin. What is it about Austin that's created such this rich musical culture? What do you love being a part of that scene? What do you love about that? Well,
first off, I'm no longer. I don't reside in Austin anymore. I just moved recently, but I did spend.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I'm up in at the split time between Tennessee and New York now. But I've spent the last 12 years, I think, living in Austin, and I still consider myself very much a part of that scene and that community. I just don't get my mail there anymore, but or at least most of it. But it's the first time I tried to move to Austin, the first time I did move to Austin to try to play music was in 2000, and I had always lived in these communities where there was no community. There was not a musical community. So where the town I grew up in, the place I went to college, and the beach town that I was residing in, there was not an outlet. There wasn't a community of people who played really per se, and there wasn't really an outlet to play, even if you did. And I just had always, Austin had always been sort of Shangri-La for the musician, the songwriter. It had this rich history, and everybody sort of, if you made it in Houston, if you made it in Dallas, if you made it in whatever small Texas town you were living in, you moved to Austin, or you did it beforehand and tried to make it there. But that was sort of the big time for me as an aspiring Texas singer-songwriter. And the first time I went there, I didn't know anybody, and I didn't even know where to start. And it didn't, it was a bigger city than I had ever really lived in, and it didn't go well. But the second time I came back in around 2005, I had, it was maybe 2006. I'd been in the business and I'd made relationships and I had a little bit of a career going, and I wasn't just starting from scratch. it's just an incredible community where it's the only town that I have ever known of where you have, at one point there were 5 different radio stations in town that would play my music. And that's, that's not specific to me, but I also know it's not everybody's experience. But the idea is that there's an infrastructure in place as far as the venues. There are a ton of venues that you can get into and play. You don't need to have a booking agent necessarily to get into some of them. You just hustle. Mm-hmm. And there's radio stations that support it, and that's a huge thing because that's a way to reach people that aren't just going out to the club every night looking for the new band. That's a way to reach them, and they can hear something on the radio and say, all right, I like this, let's check it out. And they go look in the entertainment section, and all right, he's playing here, or they'll be broadcasting your show live. And there's just all sorts of interconnected things between the venues, the media, the radio. And then there's this great, wild, crazy collection of artists of all types down there that just sort of seem to have this spirit of we can do this, and there's not labels out of there. There's not an industry per se like in Nashville or Los Angeles or New York City. It's more of a community and sort of an independent spirit, which I always loved, and I think because everybody's sort of coming up on their own and figuring it out on their own, that a community builds around that, and you end up making a lot of friends, and everybody's helping each other out. So whether that's in a recording studio or on the road or in whatever way, it is a community, and it feels like that for sure.
So it's just like this already integrated, like built-in support system, it sounds like.
In a way, and I imagine that's maybe not everybody's experience with it, but
sure.
But for me, it was once I got in there, I found a lot of support and a lot of like-minded people who were able and willing to help out in whatever way, and I tried to return that in kind. And I think it's just a unique musical community.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have the support of that community behind you. You won very big at the Austin Music Awards. A list of your awards: Musician of the Year, Album of the Year for Lovers and Leavers, Song of the Year for Sake of the Song, Best Folk Performer, Male Vocalist, Songwriter, Album Art for Lovers and Leavers. Are you paying for meals when you go back to Austin these days?
Well, there's I'm paying to bribe the voters. That's payola is still alive and well.
Oh, it's very real, very very real.
Yeah, I buy a lot of dinners.
If you were to have like a Hayes Carll restaurant rating system, like a Zagat, what establishment, and it doesn't have to be just Austin, what establishment gets the Hayes Carll seal of approval for best dining experience?
Oh Lord. There's a couple of issues with this. One is that I have pretty simple taste, so like a Thundercloud sub is going to get a unusually high rating, and might leave some fine dining connoisseurs miffed if they go there and said that expecting a 9-star.
They're let down
meal. But and then the second issue is I can remember lyrics for days, but the name of where I ate last night, or even the food that I ate last night, is I have some sort of strange memory issue with that. But yeah, having said that, these days my favorite thing to do is I'm trying to learn how to cook myself. So I went and got a green egg recently, which is my sort of
oh yeah.
I feel like I'm moving into some kind of suburban adulthood, and I got it out in the backyard and just throw stuff on it and see what happens. And my Father's Day gift was a green egg cookbook. So right now I'm just trying to figure out how to make myself, when everything goes to hell, I'll be ready to. I got my charcoal and ready to provide for the family.
You got a favorite thing to cook on that thing?
Right now, I'm just throwing steaks and chicken on there, and I haven't gotten too creative. I've only done 3 rounds of it, and but I did get these cookbooks, and I didn't realize I can make a creme brulee on my green egg or countless other meals. So it's about to get real over here.
I feel like you're going to have a cookbook author title to your long list of achievements here before the end of the year, maybe.
That's a great idea, actually, and I think if you can keep me off the road and keep the mailbox money coming, I'm all.
There you go. I'm into it. I'll buy it. The Saxon Pub has opened its arms and its doors to you for a series that you've been doing called Enough Rope. Tell me how this came to be and a little bit more about it for folks who may not have seen it.
Yeah, the Saxon Pub was the first club that I ever went to in Austin, long before I really had any idea I'd be doing this for a living. And then it also turned out to be the first club that I played at in Austin, I think in 2002. And it's just a great spot. There's a couple of long-running residencies there that I'm a fan of, and it's a great mix of a listening room, but one that has some energy and feels like a bar. So it's not total church, and you can get in there and make some noise, but people are also respectful and will listen, which I love that mix. And so what this is I have a monthly series that started out as I could go in there with my bands or parts of my band, and I co-host a guy named Kevin Connor who works for Sun Radio in Austin, and we'll just talk and play music for the live audience, and then I'll have a guest come on, and I'll talk to them and have them play music and get to know them a little bit and talk about their creative process and their history and trade road stories and just get to know each other. And then we also stream the whole thing on Facebook Live. And I think we've done 14 episodes now, and it was 2 of them we couldn't stream because of some technical issues, but that's the deal. So for me, it gives me a chance to talk to some people that I admire and get to know them a little bit and to use some different muscles. I get to go into Johnny Carson mode and or Charlie Rose mode or whatever. I get to or have to figure out something to say that's not just about me and actually have a conversation. And so that's good for me, I think, in the big picture. And it's fun. It's fun.
Will there ever be a trade-off where Daryl Hall comes on Enough Rope and then you go on live from Daryl's house?
I don't think so. I mean, that would be cool, I guess. But yeah, I have yet to get. I played Daryl's club in upstate New York.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he has a club called Daryl's House, and it's cool. It's interesting. It's got all kinds of. It's a unique club. I've played thousands of venues, and it's different than any one that I've ever played in that it's set up with some gear and some things in mind that a typical club isn't, because I think they're prepared to record video and audio from the stage, but it's also a steakhouse. So it's this strange mix of a listening room that's a steakhouse and a restaurant, but is also kind of a high-end recording setup. And then he has a list of rules in the dressing room that I got a kick out of. There's one of them was make sure you tune and try and smile, which I have problems with sometimes. And then my favorite was never refer to your song as a little song. There are no little songs. And so anyway, but it's a good spot. But I've yet to get invited to his house, and after this explanation of the backstage of the club, I probably never will. But
I'm going to start a campaign. We're going to get you there.
But if he would love to come on Enough Rope, that would be great. And it probably, we reach 40 or 50,000 people, so it'll make him a household name after he comes on our show.
Yeah, it'll be huge.
Yeah.
The guy will have tons of success. Yeah. Speaking of collaborations like Enough Rope, though, you've worked with so many great people. Corb Lund, Carrie Ann Hurst. You wrote a Grammy-nominated song for Leanne Womack. What do you love about teaming up with others, and who are some of the folks that you'd really like to work with?
Teaming up with others is, and on the writing front, it's this thing where it can be really awkward and uncomfortable and just downright miserable sometimes when you sit down with somebody and try and come up with something creatively. That's a hard process by yourself, to get on the same page with somebody else and sort of show yourself, and it can be really challenging. But when it works, it's the best. If you sort of mind meld with another human being and get on the same page, and the two of y'all create something as a team, that's a really special feeling. And I've been lucky to get to write with a lot of people who are really good at this. And whether it's Guy Clark or Daryl Scott or Ray Wiley Hubbard, I've just been really fortunate to get to work with people that I could learn from, and whatever the status of the person I'm writing with, they usually have some kind of different point of view. And if you can get on the same page but be bringing your own thing to it at the same time, that is worth a lot, because it gets me out of my rut. Sometimes it can help me see things from a perspective that I just never would have come up with on my own. And oftentimes that's the thing that brings the song to life is, okay, here's what I brought to it, but then here's what you brought to it. And together we've created something that just would not have existed if we'd done this individually. So that's the writing side of it. And I still do a fair bit of co-writing. It's kind of one of those things that every time I do it, I'm a little apprehensive, but I usually am glad that I did, because I learned something or something came out of it. As far as working with other people, like with Carrie Ann or Corb or Todd Snyder, different folks, that's just fun. Let me find people that I like and or have personalities that suit the song or whatever, and see what happens. And that's just, I feel like a grown up kid in those situations, just getting to play with my friends.
Well, and I mean, it really comes across as just, you're having a blast. Like I think of, Bible on the Dash with Corb, or Another Like You with Carrie Ann. That's just, you can tell that the back and forth there is just, you guys are just having fun.
Yeah, it is. And it's, we do I don't know, I can't speak for anybody else, but I spend so much time just focusing on my own stuff, and it's sort of a solitary profession, the craft of writing songs and then going out and performing them. And I used to do covers almost exclusively when I started out, cover songs, because I was playing in places where nobody had ever heard of me, and nobody wanted to hear my songs. What they wanted to hear was something they were familiar with, and so that's what I would do all night, every night. But then that pendulum switched to where my career became it existed because of my own songs and for the most part, and the music that I had recorded. That's what people then wanted to hear. And so I started doing that exclusively, and some of the fun of just creating something or of playing other people's music was I didn't get to experience that on a nightly basis anymore. And so getting together with other people just to do something different is always nice. It's a good shot in the arm and a reminder of the fun you can have playing music, and that it doesn't have to be so serious, or it doesn't have to feel like it's all my stuff all the time and I'm carrying it all the time. It's just fun to get in a room with somebody creative and do something cool and different. So, whenever I have the opportunity to play with a friend, I try and take advantage of it.
Sure. You're currently at work on a new record, correct? That'll be your first since 2016's Lovers and Leavers. What can you tell me about the upcoming album?
Well, I'm writing songs right now. I'm just about finished, and I'll be recording it in August. It's going to come out on Dual Tone Records, label here out in Nashville, with the Shoals and Rope and Shaky Graves and Robert O'Keen, Lumineers. Anyway, it's a great label, and we'll probably put it out late February of 2019. And Allison Moore and Brad Jones are slated to co-produce. And I'm looking forward to it. I've been writing and I'm, for the first time in a while, I feel like I'm going into a session with the songs pretty much where I want them, instead of freaking out that I don't have anything done. Got to get in there. So I actually did my prep work this time.
Are you trying anything different? You kind of staying in your comfort zone? What's the forecast for the record? Any idea?
I'm not exactly sure what direction we're going to go. What I've been doing lately is there's a site called Patreon. Yeah. This sort of gives people the opportunity to support artists that they enjoy in whatever form, as photographers or musicians or painters or video designers or video game makers or whatever. So in my case, obviously I'm a musician, and the folks that support me on there give me enough money to, in exchange, I go and I write and record a song every month, and then give it to them and them alone. And what that's enabled me to do is not only stay on top of songwriting, but go experiment musically in the studio and have fun and work with a lot of different producers and players and just try some things, scratch an itch that I had musically that maybe I normally wouldn't be able to explore in the recording studio while making a record, because there's time and budget restraints. So what it's, having said all that, I don't know exactly what's going to happen in the studio this time, but I don't know if it'll come out as something that I would consider my comfort zone in the past, or would have considered my comfort zone. But I feel more comfortable right now just sort of pushing the limits for myself, because one, I get to do that in sort of a preliminary fashion through the Patreon stuff, and two, after my last record, I really, it helped me get over some of the fears I had about what my comfort zone was, or some need to stay there. It helped me realize that I can get out of my comfort zone, and the world keeps moving. Like it's not as scary and dangerous as I make it out to be sometimes, and that was a good lesson.
Right. You're at the Ryman August 5th. Are you going to be playing any of the new songs while you're there? Any chance of that?
I imagine I will be. I've been playing some of them for a little while now, just kind of road testing them, and it helps me, see what works live and what doesn't, so yeah, I imagine that we'll have a few of those worked up for the Ryman show.
Cool. Is that your first time at the Ryman?
It is not. It's my first time to headline a show or co-headline a show. I'm playing with Alejandro Escobedo. But I've done several songs there as parts of award shows, and then I opened a show for Dierks Bentley there and got lightly booed. And that was my first time to play at the Ryman. So anyway, so it'll be good to go back and have my own gig and an audience, and we'll see how that goes. What was
the grounds for the booing?
It was the aforementioned "She Left Me for Jesus." It didn't go over so well.
But you made it out alive, so that's good. You're still here with us.
I made it out alive. It was it was not a mass reaction. It was just a dozen or so folks that
a few curmudgeons in the crowd.
Yeah, it was a bit of an older crowd, and yeah, they just they did not see the humor in that particular song in that particular venue.
Well, you're on the road quite a bit. Do you have like a road trip playlist? Do you got anything comprised that you listen to, maybe like curveballs, anything that we might not expect from you to listen to?
Well, on the road, the only time I really listen to music these days is at home. When I'm on the road, I've either got a podcast on or am trying to make up my own stuff. But musically, I don't know. I'm not sure what people's perception of what I listen to is, but I've been listening to a lot of Jason Isbell.
Oh yeah,
a friend, but also I just think really he's taken his art to just incredible levels, and it's really cool to see. It's inspiring.
Absolutely.
To me. And I listen to a guy named Raylan Baxter.
He's so good. Oh man. All right, we're clicking here. We're on good grounds.
Yeah. I always like Carrie Ann and Michael, Shovels and Rope, and I don't know, little Rufus Wainwright, my buddy Corb Lund, Todd Snyder is always a go-to. Lyle Lovett. Yeah, it sort of changes. I mean, these days with Spotify, it's funny. I used to get a record, and I put it on, and I just play it to death, and then even on the iTunes, that's what I do. But these days, it's just I'll think of an artist and put him on Spotify, and that's what I'll listen to, whether it's George Jones or Leonard Cohen, and it's either that or just put on a playlist or put in an artist and let Spotify
just let it ride.
Yeah, let it ride, and then the problem with that is, I mean, one, you get exposed to a lot of great stuff, but it's hard to really remember or keep track.
Yeah,
and then dig into the album itself. So it's becoming much more of the way that I've taken music is much more of a one song at a time type of thing.
Right.
And there's pros and cons to that, I guess.
Absolutely. Well, if folks want to stay up to date with you online, social media channels, website, where do they go to find you?
Yeah, I'm HayesCarll.com. It's HayesCarll.com. And Twitter's Hayes Carll, Instagram's Hayes Carll, Facebook Hayes Carll. I don't think there's anything outside of that. I think we got in early enough to get my name.
All the old regular outlets.
Yeah, and so that's it. And then there's the Patreon. If you just go to patreon.com and then put in Hayes Carll, and that'll take you to my page. And I think for like the minimum is $1 a release, and so you only get charged if I release something, and you can set limits on that and do as much or as little as you want. So it's a cool way to, if you are into my music and want to know what's going on, but not have to wait until a record comes out and get sort of behind the scenes access into a lot of stuff. That's a good way to do that.
All right. Good stuff. Hayes Carll, it's been absolute honor to speak with you. There's, like I said, not enough time to just pick your brain and shoot the breeze with you, but I hope you'll come back around the release of the new record and chat some more. But safe travels to you on the road. Thank you so much for your time today. This is a bucket list item to me. So thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Beau. I appreciate it. It's good talking to you.
You're listening to the Beaucephus Broadcast.
Oh, baby, it's a hard way. It's an eternity. Got the life that we wanted, not the love that we need.
This year, choose Kingsford Charcoal Briquettes for unmatched quality and impeccable flavor that'll have the whole neighborhood talking and flocking. Here's what Kingsford users are saying about Kingsford Charcoal Briquettes Easy Light Bag. Worked great after Hurricane Irma knocked out power. It's convenient, but not my favorite option. Save your money. Well, it worked okay, but it wasn't clear from the instructions how to open the flap properly. Grilling season kicks off with Kingsford.
The Beaucephus Broadcast.
She left me for Jesus, and that just ain't fair. She says that he's perfect. How could I compare?
That is going to wrap things up for episode 67. Again, my big, huge, massive thanks to Hayes Carll. Man, what a dream come true. And thanks to his manager, Griff Morris, who was actually very cool. I spoke with Griff on the phone to set this whole thing up, and it was what a super cool couple of dudes. That's maybe one of these days I'll get to have a beer with those guys. That would be ideal in an ideal world, an ideal situation. Regardless, thank you so much to Griff. Thank you so much to Hayes for coming on the show this week. Don't forget, follow along on social media, facebook.com/Beaucephus Broadcast. Give us a like, engage with the posts. sharing some laughter, maybe some tears. I don't know. Depends on what I post that day. Shoot us an email over at beaucephusbroadcast@gmail.com if you've got questions, comments, concerns, sponsorship ideas, hate mail, anything of that nature. We take that over there. Don't forget the hotline available for use any time of day, 24/7, 365. That number is 872-222-8610. Again, 872-222-8610. If you want a t-shirt, they're actually starting to sell like hotcakes. Never thought that would happen. Amazon.com, search for Beaucephus Broadcast. They have got a variety of sizes, styles, and colors. I had a guy that was like, you shouldn't wear black in the summertime because it draws heat and you can get a heat stroke. Well, the good news is the Beaucephus Broadcast t-shirt comes in a wide variety of colors. I had somebody pick up a baby blue ladies style this week. Point being, you can get them on Amazon.com, $19.99. Plus, they're eligible for Prime shipping. You can get it free in 2 days if you are a member. So hop on that, Amazon.com, search for Beaucephus Broadcast, and add to your wardrobe the most fashionable fashion item of summer 2018. Next week on episode 68, yes, Chris Pontius from Jackass. He's going to be talking about a new film that he's doing alongside Johnny Knoxville, which is in theaters right now. It's called Action Point. We'll also talk about a cool little new project he's doing with Steve-O. You can keep your eyes out for that as well. And some listener questions like what his highest medical bill was, what is the worst pain that he's been in from a stunt. What a crazy thing to be sitting in my basement on a weeknight and I get a call and it's on the other end say, hey, it's Chris Pontius. And all you really want to say is, oh, holy shit. But you got to be professional, right? Because this is your thing now. This is what you like to do. You got to be a pro about it. So wild stuff. Really looking forward to that one. Hope you are too. Next week, Chris Pontius on the show. Other than that, I'm going to get out of here. It's Sunday. It's a Sunday morning coming down for sure, to borrow from Chris Christopherson. I'm going to go relax a little bit. So with that being said, have a great week. Happy 4th of July. Enjoy yourselves. Be safe. And we'll see you right back here next week for episode 68 of the Beaucephus Broadcast. We'll catch you then.
You've been listening to the Beaucephus Broadcast.
Infirmary Media.